Welcome to Fitzdog Radio. It's a proud week in the Fitzsimmons home. My dear, darling, handsome, loving son, Owen, has just graduated college. Holy shit. I mean, from the second this kid was born, we put aside a college savings account, and you really don't know whether or not that money is going to be sitting in an account unspent because they're off fucking working at a car wash or traveling in New Jersey or somewhere exotic. And so, sure enough, the kid finished high school, went to college, he got through. Let me tell you something. Going to college during the last 4 years with the pandemic, half freshman year, he got sent home. The entire second year, he was home. The third year, he had to wear a mask the entire time. And somehow he kept his spirits up. He got through it. He, he graduated. He did well. Dean's List. But I just fucking love this kid. I love both my kids. I really do. I got really lucky. Not lucky. I got to give me and my wife credit. Mostly my wife. She's an amazing mom. And they have confidence, and they're curious about the world, and their friends love them. Like, there's a sense of people wanting to be with them that I'm really proud of because they care about other people, and it reflects well on them that their friends want to be with them so much. They both have held down jobs for long periods of time. Like, I don't worry about them. They're going to be okay. Our job is done. It's time for me to move on. If this was the animal kingdom, I would be abandoning this family right now to head off into the forest and impregnate some other beaver or monkey or something. I'm going to have sex with a beaver. You know? Why not? Just find a dam, hang out. She'll show up. Give her some sticks. Wow, there's a lot of background noise going on in Fitzdog Studios today. There's some helicopter traffic at the Santa Monica airport. Anyway, so we were in Chicago. We had a blast. It was action-packed. We got in on Thursday. We went out to this fun game place where, they had a huge vault filled with board games when you walk in, and then you go sit at a table and they serve you food. Not bad food, but you walked in and it was just a lot of like nerds. It was a lot of nerds, and I fucking love when nerds are in their element. Whether it's at a spelling bee or holding an instrument on the sideline of a football game or running a network. Nerds are great when they're with other nerds doing nerdy things, and you can see the joy, and they don't feel scared now. And so we played Jenga, and we ate pizza, and that was our first night. And then we went to the Lincoln Park Zoo, which I got to say, I went to the Lincoln Park Zoo a lot of years ago, and that place used to be an urban nightmare for animals. It was like a fucking maximum security prison. Just concrete and steel bars and animals with like gang tattoos, throwing signs, pacing back and forth, throwing signs. And now it's like they've expanded it out. The habitats are very humane looking and spacious, and really nice organization. And saw the fucking gorillas, man. Gorillas, I'm sitting no less than 2 feet away from a gorilla with the glass in between us, and he's just sitting there eating a head of lettuce while somebody grooms him. And these dudes are built like fucking Olympic weightlifters. Their bodies are so buff and they're so human-like. The ear, which was right next to me, you couldn't tell it from a human ear. And then my son, who just took a class in I don't know, it was anthropology or something, and he said that apes have 99% of the same DNA as Americans or humans, whatever you call them. And so it was just amazing to watch them interact with each other. Anyway, whatever. What am I going to do? A fucking podcast about zoos? I went to the fucking zoo. We got ice cream. We looked at shit. We thought stuff was cute. We took pictures. I don't know. It was a goddamn zoo. And then we walked down through, they've got this beautiful pond next to the zoo. And we walked downtown. And then we stumbled into this really cool blues festival that was happening at. They've got this little hat shell down on the lake, and so we danced. All of us danced in the grass. It was just amazing. And then we went to the Chicago Symphony, which is one of the best symphonies in the world. It is unbelievable. And they played a piece by Molay, I think his name is. Heavy, emotional piece. Did I cry? My son cried. Yeah, and I cried too. We both cried. Me and Owen are the criers in the family. Actually, JoJo's a crier too. But it was that emotional. It was just incredible to watch these musicians. And each one of them you look at and you go, this motherfucker started playing this instrument when he was 5 or she was 5. And they stuck with it. They were the first violin chair in whatever orchestra they've ever been in, through high school, through college, outlasted everybody else, outperformed everybody else, outstudied, outpracticed. And now they are at the top of this world. And they're sitting amongst other people at the same level, being conducted by a world-class Czechoslovakian conductor and playing a piece of music that's so complex, and yet all of them, we're talking 100 people, are in lockstep to the and you're just watching the bow of the violin just slide across those strings and sometimes bounce across those strings, and the emotion on their faces, and it was just, God, it was powerful. And I just thought, I listen to a lot of music, mostly rock, gotten into country lately, but motherfucker, if I'm not going to listen to classical for a period of time now and start seeing it live, because you don't need to be an expert in it. You don't need to have been trained in classical music to feel the emotions of a piece that was written 400 years ago and just be captivated and taken somewhere by it. It was incredible. So anyway, we did that. We went to some cool athletic club that has like an old school dining room. We went to the Art Institute, which is my favorite art museum in the country. Saw some Renoirs and some Monets and some Degas and some Chagalls. Chagalls. Just as I'm talking about being uneducated about art, I mispronounced one of the biggest painters in history. We went to, where else? We went everywhere. We had great dinners out. We took out Owen's roommates and dropped some coin. We dropped some coin this weekend because we bought the flights late and it was graduation weekend. So Southwest took the liberty of doubling their fares. And then we stayed in this Airbnb that we originally booked another one a while ago, which was nice. And then they canceled it on us about a month out. Just like Ireland. Same thing happened with our Ireland reservation. And so we ended up in this place that did not give you many photos. And when we checked in, we understood why. Number one, no living room. No living space whatsoever. No kitchen. There was a walk-in closet with a coffee maker and red plastic cups, and no windows. They had a skylight in each room that did not open, and carpeting that smelled of cat, and hard-ass pillows and polyester sheets. When's the last time you slept on polyester sheets? It brought me back to college. You fucking sweat your ass off. So uncomfortable. Anyway, it didn't matter. Didn't matter. I haven't left a review yet, but I will. I'm rolling up my sleeves on that review. And then what else did we do? We helped him pack, which thank God we went by his place on Sunday before we left. We packed 7 duffel bags worth of stuff. It was everywhere. He would never have gotten packed in time to leave. And so we did it for him, and it's very sad to think at the age of 22 that he still needs his mother to pack his shit for him. But we did it, and what else did we do? Whatever. It was fun. It was a great weekend, and we're back. And now Owen will be working at a pharmacy. He's been doing that for a bit. He's going to work at this pharmacy full time, do a little production assistant work here and there, and then we're all off to Europe in about a month and a half. Then he'll get home, and maybe, I don't know, he's got to figure out if he's going to get a career or whether he's going to just travel. He might get a motorcycle and ride through South America for a while. He's fluent in Spanish. Who knows? We could have a kidnapping ahead of us. So, other family thing is the U.S. Open is in Los Angeles this weekend. And I'm going to go and I'm going to see my cousin Denny McCarthy. He's playing in it. Last year, he came in 7th place in the U.S. Open. And he got a free buy into the tournament this year. So we're going to go see him on Thursday. His father will be there. I'll walk the course with his father and we'll watch him. And I placed a bet on him. He's paying 151 to 1 odds. 150 to 1 odds. So I'm just putting down $20. If he wins, I get $3,000. I'll take him out to lunch. Why not? We got some mail from people. Mike Pisano said, we got a couple things in common, both 56 and 30 years of sobriety. The difference is you're funny and I'm not. I saw you on a flight in the Midwest and have heard what you do in bathrooms. He's referring to me being on Adam Carolla, and I once revealed, and I don't do this anymore, but for a number of years, I would pleasure myself in the restroom of the aircraft because I had anxiety when I flew, and I found it calmed me down. And so I would get in there as soon as the plane took off. And anyway, so he said, I thought this as I walked up and was racking my brain to try to come up with something funny when you walked out. I'm thinking and got nothing. I heard the lock slide and the door open. I start to stumble on my words. You and I had an awkward moment, and I missed my shot. Lots of love. Lots of love? Or is it laugh out loud? He knew I just masturbated and he had lots of love for me. You have the best laugh in comedy. You just heard it and really enjoy the podcast. Thank you, Mike, for not saying anything, although I don't do that anymore in the restroom. If you had made a joke about that, I think it would have made me uncomfortable. I think I would have been very aware of you for the rest of the flight and thinking this is a nutcase who knows too much about me. That's the thing about podcasts is we really share the most intimate details of our lives. And I don't know shit about this guy. I don't know Mike Pisano. He's Italian. He loiters around bathrooms. That's redundant, I guess. But you have me at an extreme disadvantage, Mike. And thank you for not acting on that. All right, then we got something from Pat McGroin, who's a regular writer into the show. Last week, you talked about meeting Greg Garcia. I played golf with Greg Garcia last week. There are 2 things in his past that really make me laugh every time I think about it. Before he was famous and right out of college, he applied to the Tony Kornheiser show on a local D.C. radio station. So the gig was to be the board op for the program. In the interview, Greg said he had experience on a soundboard. He was hired, showed up the first day, didn't know one end of the board from the other. He still calls into the show, and they laugh about how he conned his way into show business. Second is when Hollywood had the last big writer's strike that lasted quite a while. Greg filled his time, Greg Garcia, by working full-time at a Burger King where he told nobody who he really was. When the strike was over, it was revealed who he actually was, and when corporate found out, he was rewarded with a special card to never buy a meal at Burger King. Probably should be one of your first guests. Well, he has been a guest on the show. And yeah, I had heard that story. I think he didn't even take the money from the Burger King, but he did get a lifetime supply of Burger King. But meanwhile, in case you're wondering if he needs the money, just look up Greg Garcia net worth. He doesn't need the money. I got to have him back on the show, by the way. I think he's such a great guest. All right, here's an overheard that I overheard when I was in Chicago at the zoo. There were two kids, and they were hitting a giant oak tree with a couple of lightsabers I think they'd gotten from the zoo. And the mother yelled out, "Yo, leave that tree alone." You just think some people overparent, you know? Just let them hit the fucking tree. Let them get it out of their system. Otherwise, they're going to hit you or somebody on the bus ride home. Just let them hit the fucking tree. Tree could take it. Trees have been taking it since day one. They're built to take beatings from little kids. Then Matthew Colburn said, more than just a little chubby of a man at the bar. Quote, "I haven't worked out since my first day at medical school." Now, that's unusual. And first of all, unbecoming for a doctor to be overweight. A lot of doctors, and I have found whenever I ask, I have a bit about talking to doctors in the crowd. And I'll ask people what kind of doctor they are. And if they say emergency room doctor, I will, without hesitating, say, "And you run marathons, don't you?" And they laugh and they say, "Yes, I do." Because with that stress level at that job, that's what they do to keep their sanity. But I guess maybe this guy is just like a podiatrist or something. Because he's fat. I guess he could be a fat foot doctor. Maybe. All right. Anyway, this weekend, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm going to Boston on Friday. Working at Laugh Boston, June 16th and 17th. Shows are selling out. I hope to God you get your tickets now and you get in there. I get a lot of friends coming to the shows. My buddy Jeff Ginn will be there. My buddy Alex Gardner. The Dunsky family will be there. Who else? A bunch of people. It's going to be fun. Pottstown, PA, I will know nobody, at Soul Joel's on July 20th. I hope to meet some new friends in Pottstown. Then I'll be in Point Pleasant, New Jersey at Uncle Vinny's July 22nd and 23rd. All tickets at Fitzdog.com. I should also mention this episode is brought to you and sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an unbelievable company. I don't just plug them on my show, but I am a client. I have been with BetterHelp since before the pandemic. I found somebody that I really loved over there that's gotten me a lot of support. It is, it's online therapy, but how much time, it just makes you think like how much time are you giving yourself in a week versus how much you do for others? Are you balancing you with what you put out? People get codependent, people get guilty, and there's a lot of dynamics that go into it that you can examine so you don't feel burnt out by giving to others. Put it on yourself, and then you know what? You're going to have more to give to other people. And, I've done cognitive behavioral therapy, which when I start to think about whether or not I am being a bad person or a bad friend or a bad parent, I am able to question it in a way that is healthy. And I can let go of some of the anxiety and guilt that I feel. And BetterHelp has helped me do that. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible. You can work around your schedule. And to get into it, you do a little questionnaire so they can get to know you and pair you with the appropriate licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time. If it's not jibing, there's no extra charge for that. It's much cheaper than in-person therapy, and you're not driving yourself there and back. And gives you less excuses to miss your therapy or not do it at all. So get involved, find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Fitzdog today. Get 10% off on your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Fitzdog. Also, here's a sponsor I love. GameTime.co is the website, but really you should be going to the app. The app is killer. It is one of those apps where you go like, why can't all companies have something that gives you what you want, what you need immediately, and gets it? And when you basically, you're buying last minute tickets, sports, music, comedy, theater, whatever it is that you're into, you can get it at the last minute. And when we were in Chicago, we wanted to get tickets to the symphony. It was kind of a last minute idea. And so we thought of it like last week. And I looked at the tickets and they were not that expensive. But I said, you know what? Let's use GameCo and let's see if they go even lower. Well, guess what? About 4 hours before the concert, they went down by about 20%. We got some cheap tickets, which I actually kind of felt guilty about because the place was not sold out. And I thought about how many musicians they got to pay, but I don't care. It's all about me and GameCo getting the best deal possible. It's fast. It's fun to do it at the last minute this way. They get these flash deals for last minute tickets, and they've got the images from the seats. You get like the view from where your seats are. And best of all, there's a lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. So basically, if you find the same tickets in the same, basically in the same section in a row for less, Game Time credits you 110% of the difference. So you can't lose. Football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, do it all. And you can get it right in, you get it in your phone, so you're not printing anything. You're not doing a million, machinations to get your ticket out. It's just sent directly to your phone. It's easy. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Fitzdog for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Fitzdog for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Man, I did that last part well. Reminded me of my father. My father used to do reads like that. All right, let's get to it. My guest today, oh, Jesus, I went long. Sorry for the long intro. My guest today deserves better. She deserves a short intro where I get her right on. I had such a nice time meeting her. I didn't know anything about her when she was pitched to me, and then I watched her special, which I really enjoyed, so I brought her on. And she's kind of a big deal, up-and-coming actress, comedian, Canadian originally, and yet she's really very funny. She is in a new show called Based on a True Story, which is on Peacock. It's out now. She was on the Degrassi franchise. What is that? She's born in Nigeria, grew up in Canada. Her special's called All the Parts, and it's out on All Things Comedy. Canadian Comedy Award nominee. She is whatever. You'll hear. You'll love her. She's great. So sit back, pull up a chair, pack your pipe, and have a nice time listening to Aisha Alfa and me talk about life. My guest is here.
Hi.
Aisha Alfa is a Canadian who's just explaining to me that she snuck across the border in Texas.
Don't say that. I will be kicked out.
They put you on a bus and sent you to...
Yeah, we went the long way. We went from Canada through down the ocean into Mexico, and then we came up. We like to really throw people off the scent.
Right. And you lost a child from the cages.
Oh, wow. Wow. We're
they
diving
capture
in.
them. They capture them.
Oh, my
down there.
gosh. This country. I know. I'm like, people, when I tell them I'm taking my citizenship test, are like, you're becoming a citizen? All my friends in Canada are like, you're becoming a citizen of America? Are you going to give up your Canadian? And I was like, no. I want to be able to vote here.
Yeah.
So,
So you get both.
Yeah, you can keep both. Mm-hmm.
And so health coverage for you, if you need something, you go back to Canada?
No, it doesn't work like that. You have to live there for a certain amount of time in order to qualify to avoid exactly that. But at any point in time, I could go back to Canada and live there. And, depending on which province you're in, it's a different amount of time you have to wait to get healthcare.
Right.
So. Yeah,
it's funny because Canadian people are, just considered so nice here. You just come off like I've known you for about 3 minutes. Yeah. And there's just a nice energy. There's no
At the end, I will shiv you, but up until then, it's very, very friendly people.
Right.
That's how we get in close. You know?
And so how does that work with you getting a green card? What did you have to do? You have to show that you have a certain amount of talent?
Yes. I mean, the actual technical term is you have to prove you're an alien of extraordinary ability. Which is sort of basically they want to know that you're coming here and not taking a job away from somebody who could do this.
Right.
And that, you're the only person in the whole world who can do it. And that's why it's okay for you to come and work here.
And so was there an audition or they look at you, they look you up online?
That would be so much easier. It takes so much time. It's just such a bizarre process because essentially they give you these 9 criteria. Basically, the first thing that my lawyer asked me was, have you won an Oscar or an Emmy or a Nobel Prize? And I was like, no. He goes, okay, that would have made things a lot easier. Because apparently with those, you can basically just show them and they go, come on in.
Right.
But you have these 9 criteria and you have to hit on however many you think is important.
Yeah.
And then provide evidence of all of those different things in whatever way you think is important. So it's a very mysterious process. I mean, you show evidence. You have to show, for example, one of them is that you've evaluated your peers in some sort of thing. So I was a judge in some contests, right, for different actors or comedians. So I had to show what the contest was, why it's significant, who's been on it before, that I was in it, why I was chosen for that, all for this one piece of evidence in this one category. You do a couple different categories, a couple different pieces of evidence, but you end up with a ream of something this big.
Yeah.
Letters from people here saying oh my gosh, Aisha's the only one who can do this.
How long did this take?
A year of collecting all this evidence, showing that I've been on shows, that that I'm famous in Canada, that I've created money for these networks and stuff like that.
You're going to come to this country and you're going to create
I'm going to
money.
Add and not take away.
Right.
But what's so funny is all of this stuff happens. I had some questions along the way. They have a hotline you can call, and you call it, and they're not allowed to give you answers. So you call and you say, well, what does this exactly mean? They go, what do you think it means? And I was like, what?
So it's
what
therapy.
Is this job? Yeah, it's so bizarre. And he said, well, I can't technically offer you any information or give answers. And I was like, why is this listed? This is the best job in the world.
It's a great job.
Around, what do you think it is?
Right.
So I got it in the end. Pretty, once I submitted everything, I was legit. I had lots of stuff I had done.
Did you need a sponsor in the U.S.?
No, not for a green card.
Okay.
For different visas. Green card's kind of like the holy grail.
Yeah.
Because you can do anything. I could work anywhere, do anything. And then you apply for your citizenship. But the funny part is, I did all that. I spent all this money and all this time. And then I moved here. And the next year, I got married to an American.
So you didn't need to do any of that.
So I could have come here. If I had just met him, then I wouldn't have been here had I not had the green card to work.
Yeah, but you know what? Also, you would have been that person that married for a green card. There would always been a little bit of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm always I can do whatever. I'm actually eligible to apply for my citizenship as a married person or as my green card holder, and I chose to apply as my green card holder.
Absolutely.
So this is all me.
This is you.
This has nothing to do with you, Josh. Although he's a wonderful person, but.
So how'd you meet Josh?
We met through a mutual friend who I knew from my hometown in Canada, who had moved here years ago.
Yeah.
At an afternoon 4th of July party.
Nice.
I hadn't shaved my legs. I was real sweaty. I was like, I'm just going to come by, hang out, have a hot dog and go. And then met him. The next day I left to go to Canada to work on a show for 3 months. And he and I FaceTimed for 3 months. And then had our first date when I came back. It was the most awkward thing when I came back.
That is so funny. I have heard that story so many
times.
And it's not dissimilar to me and my wife. We met, and then I went on the road nonstop for a month. And it's kind of a beautiful way to get to know somebody without all the distractions of like, are we going to fool around?
Yeah.
Or, you know, and then you build this friendship that's kind of pure.
You get like this deepness to it.
Yeah.
Also, at the same time, though, it was very funny when we went on our first date because I was like he came and picked me up at the airport and I hugged him and I was like, oh, that was weird. Like, I've never touched you before.
Yeah.
And then we went on our date and it was like really awkward because it's just, you know, when you're in this, we were FaceTiming, so you're like in a box, just each other. There's no distractions. There's nothing else going on.
Seen his body.
I have nothing. I mean, I saw him at first when I met him, but like, it was just a very bizarre. I think if our first and second date hadn't happened with the 3 months beforehand, like 10 minutes into the date, I would have been like, peace, like you're not for me. But we just knew each other so well. He's a bit socially awkward because he gets really nervous and like, so that, you know, it comes across as like, this guy's not into me. Yeah. He's weird or whatever. Right. But I just knew him so well that it was fine. Yeah. And like, he's a good looking man. Like, he used to be a model and an actor. So he kind of gets away with that. You know what I mean? Like, if someone's socially awkward, they're like, he's aloof. And you're like, no, he's just anxious in crowds. Yeah. So. And
you're very outgoing.
I'm very outgoing. I think I'm more comfortable in crowds than I am one-on-one. So it was like both of our worst nightmares in a certain way to like go on a one-on-one date after all of this stuff. But it worked out well. Now we have 2 kids. We're like happily like married.
Kids.
Yeah.
How old are the kids?
Almost 2 and almost 4. So they're little guys.
Who's watching them right now?
I don't know. No, they both go to preschool. So it kind of frees up the day, yeah.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, mine are, my son is those are my kids up there on the wall. But now my son is graduating college next week.
You need a new picture.
I know.
Well, not a new one. You need one next to it. You know?
Those are the class pictures going up as they get older. But he's graduating college next week, and she's a sophomore. And
wow!
So he's moving back home. We get a full house again. And
are you excited about it?
I'm mixed.
Lets me know a little bit. Okay.
You know, yeah. Well, it's like, you know, me and my wife are very lucky. We've been together 24 years, and I could not love her more. Yeah. And I could not crush on her more.
Oh, that's great.
I sexually assault her every day. I'm always grabbing and, you know, we just enjoy, like yesterday I got home off the road and we'll spend every moment together.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So we had an empty nest situation for just a minute and now we were kind of getting used to it. But then once they're home, you realize how much life your kids bring into the house. They walk in the door and you're like, what'd you do? Who'd you hang out with? How was that? You know, because what do I do? I'm not going to bars and drinking.
It's a beautiful thing because there's a great line in, do you know Brandi Carlile, the singer?
Sure.
Yeah, so she has a great line in her song about her daughter where she talks about how like basically kids kind of like let you live life through a second set of eyes. Right. So it's this beautiful gift that you would never get. Like you can live a full life and it's wonderful and exciting. Yeah. And then if you have a kid, not everyone should have a kid or wants to have a kid, whatever. But if you decide you want to, it's like all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, like my kid learned to walk. Yeah. Or like now they can tell me what they did at preschool. Like what a phenomenal, he had a dream and he's telling me about his dream. It's like so exciting. Yeah. And I think it has to be because it's really hard. You know what I mean? But like,
no, and you get phenomenal. To color again and you get to do puzzles again.
Oh my gosh, it's love it.
And you get to read cute little, crafts are fun.
I made him an ant out of garbage this weekend and he legit like was like, can I sleep with this in my bed? And I was like, you make me feel so loved. Like it was amazing.
Do you need some money?
I thought that's what this was about. How much am I getting paid to be here right now? Oh man, yeah, it's beautiful though. It really is. It adds life for sure.
I hung out with a 3.5-year-old last night. We went to this party, and this kid. I walked into the party, and somebody goes, "Don't talk to the kid. He's really in a bad spot." He had just gotten out of a nap, and he was hiding from his face. He's like, "Daddy, come here! Daddy, come here!" Yeah. And he would go like this if anybody else looked at him and cover his eyes. And so after like 20 minutes, I started to just sideways, just not confront him, but like go, "Oh, you got on a dinosaur shirt," and then he'd go, "Yeah, I've on a dinosaur shirt." And cut to an hour later, we are playing with the dog and a ball, and I spent an hour and a half, probably the most I've enjoyed life in the last month. Yeah. He was He was like, and the kids today, they talk about their feelings.
Yeah.
And so like when we were, after like, this is like 2 hours later, they're leaving. And he goes, before I was mad and I was crying and I was scared of you people. And he goes, now I'm happy. And I was like, who's teaching this kid?
I'm like, this is the most beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Isn't this what we all want? To just be able to say what we're feeling and be
Right.
honest and totally direct
Right.
and not feel like we have to qualify everything or make it cool. It's like, I was sad. That sucked.
I know.
Now I'm feeling good. Like that's
Yeah.
such a beautiful, I'm hoping my kid, he's having a lot of tantrums and he's starting now to be like,
The
I was
2-year-old?
feeling sad. No, the 4-year-old. He's starting to say like, I was feeling sad then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh. Like, I get it. And he's like, all right, cool. Like, that's all he needed,
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Right.
But
How are you feeling right now?
I'm having a great time. I'm feeling very happy.
Oh, yeah?
I'm feeling very, like, energized.
Uh-huh.
Yes, this is good. How about you? How are you feeling?
I feel good. It's always weird when a guest comes in that you don't know.
Yeah,
Because,
I
like,
imagine.
I've watched your stand-up and I enjoyed it very much.
Oh,
Bill
good,
Burr
thanks.
produced your special and
Yeah.
it was great. It was really good.
Thank you.
So I have that. I know things about you.
Mm-hmm.
And as a comedian, obviously you're saying personal things on stage that I wouldn't have known about you
Right.
until we hung out 4 or 5 times.
Right. Yeah.
But then when somebody new comes into it's a very small little office and it's intimate, but your energy
You can always
is
just
Canadian.
open the window and jump out, though, if you hate the person. That's why you've set it up like this. I know. It's
Yes.
a good setup. It's
I'm
very
thinking
good.
about changing the setup and putting the 2 chairs against the wall and shooting this way.
Huh.
What do you think about that?
Wait, the 2 chairs, like one there, one there?
Yeah.
Then you'd have the door in the middle?
No, I'd hang something behind it.
Ah, I see. Yeah, I mean, I think that what's nice about this is we're well lit,
We're very well lit.
so we're closer to the window.
I'm too well lit. You have darker skin, and you're going to look good in this shot.
I'm just gonna go like this the whole time.
Yeah,
Hi.
yeah, Vogue. And I wash out in this kind of light. I actually
You just pull that one down.
Yeah,
no,
I'm
pull
gonna
this one
pull
down.
this
Actually,
one
with
down.
everyone
Yeah, this is the
is getting
post
you.
window.
There you go.
So, all right, so let's talk about that special. We'll get to your show. You're on a new show. We'll talk about that, but I want to talk about your special a little bit.
Yeah.
How did you and Bill Burr come into contact?
I met him at the Largo at a show,
Uh-huh.
and I think I like. I had an aggressive first meeting with him because I had
Everything's an aggressive first meeting with Bill.
I mean, I was being aggressive because I had just watched F is for Family and like was obsessed with it when it was
Yeah.
on. Like I thought it was so funny. I loved it. And like, I knew of him and stuff. And I went to the show and the backstage, there's kind of like the 2 green rooms in the back.
Right.
And I feel like usually if you're kind of like a nobody, you
go
like
in the
let
far
them,
one.
you go in the far and you let the famous people have theirs and you
Yeah.
kind of go over here. But I like saw him and I, without even thinking, like walked right in the middle of a conversation, was like, oh my gosh, hi. And I was like, how are you? I love your show.
Yeah.
It's so great. And I was like gushing.
Yeah.
And he was just like, oh, thanks. Like he's so lovely and so like receptive.
Yeah.
So he was like, cool. And we like had a good show. And then I saw him again at the Largo, like, a couple weeks later or something. And I walked up and was like, oh, hey, I'm Aisha. And he goes, I know who you are. Like he was like annoyed that I would introduce myself.
yeah.
And I was like, okay. I just wanted to make sure because, like,
Which,
I'm
by
sure
the
you meet
way,
a lot.
that's the move. I love when people do that.
What, like reintroduce or still get mad?
Yes, I don't, because, it's so awkward otherwise.
I'm like, I never expect someone to remember me unless
Yeah.
we've met like 50 times. And the thing is, I'm like, I don't care. If you don't remember me,
Sure,
that's totally fine.
right.
It doesn't bother me. I'm bad with names. So I'll meet someone and be like, I know we've met, but like, what's going on? And I hate when people are like, you don't remember? Like, we met 3 times. And I'm
Such
like,
a
I don't know, man.
shit move to do because I have a horrible memory. I'll remember you because in your special you say your real
joke.
name is I shit.
I shat.
I shat. So
Yeah.
I'll always remember that.
Yeah, that's so
Even
many
though
people.
I just forgot it.
People always go, I shit. And I'm like, no, that's also wrong, but that's fine. You guys have to watch this so you know what joke we're talking about. But yeah, so I saw him the next time and he was like, I remember you. I have your phone number in my phone. And I was like, I absolutely did not give you my phone number. So what do you mean? He goes, this is you right here. And I was like, that's a different Aisha. That's a different phone number. He's like, oh, good, let me put your phone number in now. So we became
hilarious.
friends and like,
Yeah.
he's lovely. He's so supportive. And when I was doing, I went to talk to Mike Bertolino and like very pregnant, was like, I want to do this album. This is the third time I'm trying. It got like, I had to cancel it twice already. Like, I really need to make this happen before this kid comes out, when I was pregnant with my first.
This was in like 2020?
This was in 2019.
Okay.
And then he was kind of like, okay, let's do it. We ended up waiting until after I gave birth to film it.
Yeah.
And then it came out. We were like, dropping it on Mother's Day weekend in May 2020. Nice. Can't wait. We're going to do some. Bill was like, do you want to come on the road a little bit for some small shows with me and stuff? And then, of course, in March, the world shut down. Yeah. And so it was a hard time too. I think it was like one of the first times when I'm looking back, I was postpartum from giving birth. I was still going through a lot of like hormonal changes, and I think I was feeling a little bit like lost. And then when the pandemic hit, just like everyone, you kind of
so how old was your kid when the pandemic hit?
He was born in July, so he was 8 months or something.
That's tough.
Yeah, and then we had a second one during the pandemic, so like it was a weird. Pandemic was hard for everybody, but it was just like, afterward I had 2 kids.
Yeah.
It was very bizarre coming back out of it all.
And so, was your husband working?
He was.
What does he do?
He's a lawyer. He's a social justice lawyer.
Nice.
So he works in a nonprofit. So he was working hard because it was like
from home?
Tons of stuff. Yeah, tons of stuff. He was working from home. It was a hard time for lawyers who were doing social justice work. So he had a lot of work, unfortunately. You know what I mean? But fortunately, also, he didn't lose his job, which was nice.
So social justice, does that mean he works with like people that are being evicted or people coming out of jail?
His specialty is people like brown and black people, specifically men, usually who are associated with gangs. Yeah. Like he and his organization and the ACLU sued LAPD over a gang injunction list that they had created that basically like unfairly took people's rights away.
Yeah.
And they kept using this really unjust way of identifying people and putting people in jail. And so they sued them and won.
Yeah, you can't make a list in America. There's no list.
Well, this is the thing. Also, they were on this list. There were some babies that were apparently part of gang. Like, it's like this crazy list where it was being abused and like people's rights were being taken away.
It's not a gang sign. He's just wiggling his fingers.
Baby had like hand signs. But so he makes the world a better place. My husband literally makes the world a better place every day. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So you can be a shithead if you want.
Yeah, we even each other out very nicely. It's great. It's very good.
So now is he back going out or is he still working from home?
It's a hybrid situation now.
Because I hate when people took the fucking pandemic and went, now I just work from home. It's like, fuck you. I got a therapist that only will do it online. I don't get anything out of online therapy. It sucks.
For me, I'm like exact opposite. I'm like, why would we ever go back into an office? I love doing everything online because maybe it hit me because I was on bed rest during the pandemic for my baby. So I literally could not have gone out, but I still got to do stuff from home. Right. So I was like, this is the best. Yeah. Therapy from home. I don't have to go and park and all this stuff. This is brilliant. I don't have to get childcare. I can do it when my kids are at school. I need that 1 hour.
I need the awkward tension when I say weird shit to my therapist.
You want to see their reaction be real weird?
Yeah, because it's like, for me, it normalizes it. I mean, stand-up normalizes it too. A lot of stuff I say in my stand-up that whatever I'm most embarrassed about and most ashamed of, I just walk on stage and talk about it. And that turns into a good bit.
Yeah.
And I need the same thing with my therapist.
Yeah.
I had one that I had sexual tension with when I was young. I was in my 20s and she was in her 20s.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, she would be like, what are you feeling right now? And I'd be like, I'm very attracted to you.
You would just say it.
And she would blush. And then she came to one of my shows.
Oh my gosh, this is not a good therapy relationship though.
It's wrong.
It's very wrong.
Yes.
It's like, all of my therapists are like, I won't acknowledge you in public unless you want me to. Like, there's like a very hard line.
Have you seen one in public?
I saw one in public.
You did?
When I was going to the gynecologist.
No!
And I was like, hello. It was amazing. It was very good.
And did you talk?
I said hi.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't pretend I don't know somebody. It's
right.
just not a thing. So I was like, hey. And she was like, oh, hi. And she was just coming out. So I was like, hope everything's good. It was so awkward, but it was brilliant. It was very good. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. But I love doing a lot of, I don't like, comedy is different, right? Like I would still do a Zoom show and I appreciated them, I think, when I had no other option during the pandemic and when I was on bed rest. But there is something beautiful about like going on stage. You don't really get that feeling from being online where you can have that real-time interaction with the audience. And so, yeah, that's one place where I'm like,
yeah, I did one
never
Zoom
again if we
show,
don't have
and then
to.
I was like, "That's it. I'm not doing that again." I did one drive-in movie show.
I heard so
said,
many
no
people
more of
were like,
those.
no. They did it once and we're like, no.
But thank God I had I have 3 podcasts, so that kept me busy because I live
Yeah.
5 minutes from here.
Oh,
and
nice.
That's my electric bike outside, and I just cruise over here, and I got some space. It's
great.
It was great. And then doing podcasts on Zoom was a lifesaver.
Yeah.
And it forced me to start videotaping because I hadn't videotaped before.
Oh, okay.
And then
So you
once
just
people got
started.
used to it, I started a YouTube, and nobody watches it on YouTube. Everybody listens because that's what they were. I've been doing this for 13 years.
Yeah.
And they just got used to it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to if you're listening, watch it on YouTube. It's fun. And have you then gone on the road with Bill at all?
No, I mean,
Fucking Bill.
no.
Should we call him right now?
Give him a call. No, I mean, it's sort of a different, he's got all these other big things where he's doing lots of touring. I can't really be away just yet for very long periods of time. So hopefully in the next couple of years, I'll be able to think about it and hit him up again and ask.
Yeah.
But, I'm also like, I have the TV show that's coming out. There's also a lot of other things that are happening with me where stand-up is not my only thing.
Yeah.
And so right now I'm trying to like cultivate the other things. Like I'm doing a lot of writing again. Now the writer's strike is happening,
Yeah.
but like trying to cultivate those other things right now since I can't really go tour, which is sort of the
Right.
thing you're working towards often in stand-up, right? So
Well, yeah, it's the only way you get better. It's very hard to do 15-minute spots and really grow. You can come up with some new material, but it's not the same as like doing a long set and night after night.
The good thing is now I find, because I was hoping at some point to like bring the jokes from the album, and I was like, well, I still have never toured them. Like I can still do that. And then eventually it's like they become obsolete. Like it's not really the life I'm living anymore, the jokes I was
Right.
talking about. So now I have all this new material.
Right.
But the cool thing I think from the pandemic is all these small places opened up.
Yeah.
Where you can now be like, I want to do half an hour.
Yep.
I'm going to book it out. It's not super expensive. Me and a friend are going to do it. Like a friend of mine who has a show, he's like, the venue wants someone to come and do like an hour of comedy. Do you want to like share an hour? We'll both do half an hour. And I was like,
Yeah.
brilliant. Like
Great.
that didn't really feel like I didn't know of those places before. And now I think they're opening up a lot more. So it's
And even
cool.
the small places, like crowds have become comedy fans.
Yeah.
They know how to behave. They
Yeah.
sort of open up their minds to things. I think they're looking for a story more, these small rooms.
Yeah, yeah.
They want you to come in and be a little bit autobiographical and connect.
Yeah, it's like they want like not necessarily alt comedy, but they're open to that. You know what I mean? Like they're more like we're gonna sit and enjoy you.
Yeah.
We don't need you to perform for us. Like
Right.
everything doesn't have to be super funny necessarily. Even
Right.
like it's almost like moth comedy. You know what I mean?
No,
That
that's a good way
storytelling
of
thing.
describing it, because I wouldn't call it alt, because alt was, I don't know, that term sort of it doesn't fit into categories. Like you think of like Largo.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, is that alt? I don't know. Burr is there. He's not alt.
Right. Yeah.
Patton's there. He's not alt.
Yeah.
So what other clubs are you working in LA?
Well, I go to the Improv a lot.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, that's the first club I ever worked at here. But I'm like, it's funny. Like I feel like I'm trying to work my way back in. You know what I mean? Because I kind of stepped away for so long
Yeah.
in a way. That now I don't, like it used to be Paige who was booking it all the time and I knew
Yeah.
her well. And now it's just, everything's different. It feels like I'm starting from zero again for a lot of
Right.
places. Like I still know Flanny from, the Largo,
Yeah.
but I'm not performing there right now. It's
Yeah.
just like trying to like work my way back
Right,
in a lot of
right.
ways. So
Okay.
yeah.
So let's go back in time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I don't know you, I like to talk about your life a little bit. So you were born overseas?
I was born in Nigeria.
Nigeria. Uh-huh. And so you moved to, how old were you when you moved to Canada?
I was like 2.
Oh.
So I didn't live in Nigeria like my life. I grew up in Canada.
Right.
Yeah.
So where did your parents meet?
They met in Canada. My dad's Nigerian, my mom's Canadian.
Okay.
And they met in university and got married 6 months after meeting.
And then went back to Nigeria?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. Oh, so you're triple.
I could have my Nigerian citizenship, yeah, if I wanted it.
Whoa.
But it's just a big red flag for most things. when you're traveling. It's a big red flag to have. You can actually, in Canada, you can pay to have because they have your country where you're born on your passport.
Yeah.
You can pay extra to have it removed if it's causing you trouble.
Really?
Yeah. I've been pulled into secondary questioning so many times.
Because being Nigerian.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I mean, Nigeria is a huge population.
Yeah.
There's like 150 million people, probably more than that now, in the country, and probably more than that outside of the country. And it's a very... Like, I think people think of Nigerians as scammers. And I'm like, part of it is...
That's hilarious.
That's true. But also part of it is because there's so many brilliant, entrepreneurial minds there.
Yeah.
That, there's not enough opportunities for everyone to do it legitimately. I think that's why there's, scams. But interestingly enough, I found out that the first Nigerian scam artist was actually an American white guy.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
But it's a little bit of a if you have a Canadian passport and you're not born in Canada, it's already kind of like different, right? And then when it's Nigeria, it just gives them. I've been brought into questioning in North America and overseas where they're like, so how long have you lived in Canada? When I was living there, and I was like, all my life. I'm Canadian, and they're like, well, what do you do for work? And how do you have money for this trip?
Yeah.
And crazy questions where you're like, you want to be like, screw you. But then you're like, whatever you say, because I have no rights right now until you let me out of the airport. So I don't have it because even when I travel in Nigeria, it's not like it's a benefit. I don't look or sound Nigerian. They're not believing she's one of us. They're just like, this is even more suspect that you are driving with a Nigerian passport.
Yeah.
But you look, you're not looking like us. So I haven't got it.
Yeah, my brother-in-law is a cameraman, and they shoot so much in Nigeria. He lives in South Africa, but
I love
Nigeria
South Africa.
has a ton of production going on right
Nollywood.
now.
It's huge.
Oh, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's. I think recently too, it's become a lot more international, where people know Nigerian, soap opera kind of films and TV shows and
commercials. He shoots a lot of commercials there.
Okay. Yeah.
But he said sometimes they go out to some areas where there's no air conditioning in the hotel. And the food's horrible. But then there's other places he says that are amazing.
I mean, it's so the whole spectrum. When I haven't been there in a very long time, but it's super dangerous and super safe.
Yeah.
It's, super high end and also totally poverty. And it's amazing and terrifying. It's all the things.
Right.
But, you imagine that many people it's a relatively small country. That's what's going to happen. It's New York on cocaine,
Yeah. And so growing up in Canada then was, because Ray, and you talk about this in your special of how you're treated as a black woman in a country that's very white.
In Canada, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, Canada is actually very multicultural, depending on where you go. It's just...
I know Toronto and Montreal are very diverse.
Toronto is one of the most I think it's one of the most diverse cities in the world.
I think it at one point was considered the most diverse country in the world.
It's amazing. Yeah. And it was one of the places where I went and I was like, oh, I see people who look like me. I see all the different looks, different backgrounds, different, religions, everything. And there's different pockets, depending on where you go, there's different kind of, there's a huge Asian population in the west coast of Canada. And then there's a South Asian population in sort of Alberta, and Manitoba has a huge Caribbean and Filipino population. It's very pockets,
Yeah.
But I grew up in an area that was very white, and Ukrainian was a lot of the people who I grew up with. Yeah. A lot of Ukrainians in Manitoba. And my dad was finishing school. So the only full black person of my family was gone.
Yeah.
And it was me, my brother who looks like me, my mom who's the whitest, and her sister. And so I'm sure everyone thought we were adopted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When we moved to an area, and they thought we were adopted by the lesbian couple. The most progressive family you could ever think of, right? But I've traveled all over the world, and it's very interesting how in Canada people really talk about where you're from, because it's a relatively young country. So we're for me, I know I was born in Nigeria. My mom's Canadian. I'm Canadian and Nigerian. My mom's French and English. But for a lot of people, they're my parents are from Italy, so I'm Italian and I'm also Croatian and I'm this, and we talk about that.
Yeah.
And then when I, like, literally when I came here, I realized I'm Black.
Yeah.
I'm not all those things.
Right.
I'm Black.
Right.
And I was expected to sort of know Black with a capital B culture, which is very different in Canada than it is here.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it. And so I was getting like, they're like, submit this package for this like show. It's a Black comedy show, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, great. Do research. I'm like, I'm
Googling
such an imposter, right? Like, it's like, and so now it's shifted where like, I feel like I kind of understand some more of that from living here and being here. But at first, like, I really was very torn about it because I was like, I can't do, like, I might as well be like, not a white person, let's be real. Like, you know what I mean? But like, I'm not what they're like, I have to research these references that are made sometimes because I didn't grow up with this. But when people look at me, they're like, oh, she gets it. And I'm like,
that's very interesting.
You know?
Well, I don't know why. My first writing job in LA was Cedric the Entertainer Presents. It was a sketch show on Fox.
Yeah.
And it had an amazing writing staff. And I got to know a lot of the writers and showrunners and producers. I was one of the only white people on it.
Yeah.
And then I just started writing for Black shows. I wrote for Patrice O'Neill's show, Wanda Sykes' show, Jamie Foxx's show,
Love
Affion
it.
Crockett. But I don't know Black culture. But whatever job you get when you first get here,
that's what you stay with.
That's what you do. He's the white guy that writes on Black shows. And like, you know, don't like hip hop very much.
That's so how did you feel in the writer's room?
Probably how you feel. You know, I felt like a fraud.
Yeah.
And so but it also reaffirmed to me that, you know, good comedy transcends.
Yes.
And if you can write jokes that are funny, it doesn't matter. I wrote for Ellen DeGeneres for a while.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yep.
Flip the cameras right up here for a real close up on that. That's amazing. Congrats.
And I've written for Latino acts, and you know, you just realize after a while,
funny is funny.
Funny's funny, you know, and so. And I think that for you, it must be interesting because this is a time where, you know, Black female artists are looking for new voices.
Yeah.
And yet you're not that voice.
Well, it's funny because I think that what people are looking for now isn't even necessarily like that old school Black in this box voice. They're like, what's your actual experience?
Right.
Like an immigrant, a woman, a biracial woman,
a
mother in an interracial relationship, like all these different things. I have lived a life. I used to be a professional soccer player. I used to be a wedding planner. Like I have had a totally other life.
Really?
That like, so people now are like, they want, I think, unique perspectives.
Yes.
And that's what's cool.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, I'm never going to be Wanda Sykes. You know what I mean? Like she's got such, I mean, obviously she's got a unique voice, whatever. But like, I mean, not even Wanda Sykes, but like I'll never be like Lunell. Like, you know, where it's like
Pat.
She's black. And I love Lunell. She's like my comedy mama. But like I'll never be that because of my experience. And if I try to be that, it's always going to be a struggle for me.
Right.
And I think one thing that I am proud of is that like my jokes I feel like are relatable, whether you're old, young, Black, white, mom, not mom, whatever, because I'm finding the funny in whatever's going on. And I remember when I was pregnant, this woman who I was performing on her show, she was like, oh, you'll see, once you have a kid, you're going to talk about your family and your kids. No one's going to like your jokes anymore. And in my head, I was like,
that's such bullshit.
Or do they just not like your jokes? And that's like what you're putting it in, right? Like that's the box you're putting it in to make yourself feel better.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that there's always this feeling of like, ugh, should I just be talking about mom stuff because that's what I'm going through? And I'm like, screw it. Like, I'm talking about whatever I'm experiencing in life.
Right.
Like, I'm not a political comedian, but sometimes politics gets in. I'm not like a Black comedian, but obviously sometimes stuff about being Black gets in there. Like, it's all just what I'm experiencing, my perspective. So that's one thing where I'm like, yeah, I don't feel like I am in a box necessarily, but I feel like people from all those different boxes can enjoy what I'm presenting, you know?
Right. It's like we were talking about with these smaller rooms in LA. They go up and they really want to know your story.
Yeah.
And you're special, you come right out with it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just like, all right, let me just explain what's going on. Here's the context. And then, you know, and I think like in terms of like people putting you in a box, like, how about Chris Rock's stuff about kids? How about Louis C.K.'s stuff about kids? Like that, I've never seen anything like that before. It's about being truthful.
Yeah, and it's about having a perspective. Like, what is your perspective? Everyone talks about kids, dating, whatever, like masturbation. Like, it's like everyone's got jokes about that, you know, but everyone doesn't mean that they're all going to be the same.
Yeah.
So that's what's cool about it.
And have you written a sitcom script you're trying to develop about yourself?
I wrote nothing that's specific. I wrote one about a wedding planner who did not believe in getting married,
That's
which was very autobiographical for me when I was a wedding planner. And I wrote one with another co-writer in Canada about a black family moving to a predominantly white area. And sort of the fish out of water stuff, but she finds out she has a half sister who's mixed, and then like the race dynamics, the sisterly dynamics, and all this kind of stuff, which was very funny and fun that we got some development in Canada. And now with the writer's strike, is kind of sitting on the shelf until things, we're trying to pitch it in places.
Well, that's why you got to pick it. If you go walk the line, you can start pitching your show to people.
With the script handing it
I'm
out.
telling you, I have been picketing, and I'm reconnecting with showrunners that I've worked with in the past, like some big ones, and it's some good networking out there.
Yeah, I've heard. I was like, you know, I would want to go pick it just because I'm like, obviously to support, right? Like I'm a writer. I'm not in the WGA, but I'm a writer and an actor. I rely on writers as well.
You're right.
So
plus, you guys are about to strike too.
Totally, yeah. We just got the ballot to vote on it, and I was like, yeah, I don't want a robot to replace me, or even a robot me to replace me. Like, please. So, but yeah, I mean, like that's one big thing about the pandemic is it helped me focus on other things like writing about myself, right? Like, I have a couple different ideas that I'm developing right now. I actually met with Wanda Sykes' company to be like, I would love to like, that's like the vein I would love to be in is, you know, Wanda Sykes has such a unique voice. She's so funny. She's a woman. She just like, is so strong. I'm like, that's the kind of place I want to like produce something of mine where you can come and not feel like you have to like tone down being like a mixed or a black person or tone down being a woman, where I felt that before, where people are like, well, you know, can you just make it a little bit less like calling out like the microaggressions of black people or white people, and like make it more about like the white people are more fun, and you're like, that's not the point of this, you know?
Right.
So some of the stuff I've written, I'm like, I want to work with people who get it and get me and are like, we want to hear your perspective.
Well,
and not...
that's me. I mean, if you get the show, I only write for black people.
yeah, you're right. That's all you do. That's your specialty. So yeah.
All right, so let's talk about this new movie. It's called...
A TV show.
It's a TV show,
yeah.
Right. It's with Kaley Cuoco. Mm-hmm. She's got some resume, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Jesus. And it is called Based on a True Story. And I guess it has a lot of influences from My Favorite Murder. That's sort of the concept of it.
Well, it's like hard to explain this. They're calling it a dark comedy thriller.
Yeah.
And it's really about like America's obsession with true crime. Mm-hmm. And, you know, different events happen where this couple, Kaley Cuoco and Chris Messina's characters, end up having a podcast about true crime that kind of they get in over their heads. And I play one of her friends in it. But it's like, it is a wild ride.
Yeah.
It is funny and it is bizarre and surreal. And there's going to be things where people are going to be like, what just happened? Like it's all over the place.
Well, it's the same producers as Ozark and something
and Boys.
Else. And The Boy. Oh my God. Yeah. That's pretty good pedigree.
So it's phenomenal. Like this job was like a dream job.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you're working with these huge stars. And also Craig, who wrote it, was like day one, I was kind of like, oh man, like all these people are names. And I was I'm like the one who's just, it's my breakout role, you know? And I was feeling a little bit intimidated. And he, you know, on set, I think I did some improvising after, you know, like they let you kind of fill out the space at the end. And he came and he was like, that thing you said, oh yeah, we got to get that again. Yeah, go for it. Like bring it off the page. Like he was very encouraging for all of us to just improvise. And I was like, oh, this is my jam. Like, this is like where I feel the most comfortable. So I was saying, you know, I've said it a bunch of times that like the amount of improvisation we all got to do and some of the funny stuff that's not going to get in, like, I'm like, they need to like make a new comedy from just all the stuff that's going to end up on the cutting floor. Because there's so much funny stuff.
That's the best way to promote a show. We have put the outtakes on the internet. Oh my God.
I really want them to put it out because, I mean, Chris Messina is hilarious. He and Kaley had this crazy chemistry. You like thought that they must have been friends for like 25 years and they weren't. They just met, I think, for this project. Yeah. But like even like Annabelle Dexter-Jones, who's on Succession right now. So very serious show.
Which one is she?
She's the girlfriend of Kendall, like the blonde, rich billionaire.
Oh, yeah.
She's so funny. Like she's so funny.
Yeah.
And so she brought so much comedy. Some of the other like people who were like my husband on it, Ian Sharp, he's like, not Ian Sharp, Tim Sharp. He's like trained in like comedy, improv, clown. Like he's just like so funny. He dives into characters.
Yeah.
The stuff they would like get close-ups on every couple and be like, all right, give us like at one point we're talking about like, someone's dick or whatever. And they're like, okay, give us like 15 different improvised things on like this.
Yeah.
And like every single person got to go and you're like, none of this is getting in. Like, let's just find a way to have a party and show all of this.
Right.
It was so much fun. I had such a blast.
That's
on the way
awesome.
here, actually, I heard an ad for it and I was like, that's me. Like beeping to nobody.
Wow. So how
very
did you get the
exciting.
role? Did you start at the bottom of the audition cycle?
I mean, I think so. I auditioned while I was in like the middle of New Hampshire with my family
you
at
put
this
yourself on
old
tape.
cottage, put it on tape. We didn't have any equipment. We like brought old school lamps over and shone them at me while I did this whole thing. Didn't hear back. You audition, you kind of forget about it, right? If you don't hear back right away. And I think it was like a month or two later, I got a call back. And again, it was a live Zoom callback. But I was like, great. I remember that role. That was a really fun character. And they're like, oh, also like the writer, the executive producers. It felt more like a test, like when you test for something, right? So it was a Zoom with all of these people. And I remember
was Jason Bateman on it?
Jason Bateman was not on it, but I think Michael from Aggregate was on. And Alex Buono, who was the director for the first and last and a couple episodes in between. So it was very kind of like nerve-wracking, but not. And I think in the first second of it, I didn't know, like Zoom was acting weird and I couldn't see anybody. So I was just like, do. And then I was like, oh, you're all on here. Okay, sorry, my bad. Like I was acting the fool. And then I think it kind of like, brought the nerves down.
Yeah.
And then they were just like, have fun with it. And then Craig told me later, he's like, I watched all your stand-up. Like we picked you because of your stand-up. So I was like, it just was like, it really was affirming because I often feel like, I've done a lot of drama stuff when I first started and then for acting. And then people started realizing I did stand-up comedy and then I did purely stand-up. And so I feel like sometimes when you do drama, they don't think you can do comedy. And when you do comedy, they don't think you can do drama. And so when these two worlds kind of combine, it's like...
It's powerful.
It's such a wonderful feeling because I'm like, oh, I get to be full now,
Yeah, and that's the thing about this business is it all comes together. The writing, the stand-up, dramatic acting, improv, like you will use it all. And, because when you're starting out, it feels like, oh, nobody cares about anything I do. And then once you get some success, they're like, what else can you do?
Right, yeah. I mean, like, this is the thing is, this feels like, I think also because the pandemic, right? Like this is the light at the end of the tunnel that now I'm walking into the light a little bit.
Yeah.
This show's coming out. We have a writer's strike, but like I actually have something coming out during a writer's strike, which is kind of amazing. You know what I mean? I support the writers and also it's cool that we already did this thing. So it's something people get to watch anyway. And then it feels like, I don't know how much I'm in it even. I haven't seen any of it yet,
really?
So I'm like, we'll see. But from the stuff that we did, I'm proud of it. I'm excited about it. So I'm like, yeah, like this is a great calling card for me to be like, this is what I can do. And also all the other stuff that like, no one has really cared about before, but now I'm kind of getting a bit of the spotlight, which is kind of cool.
Good. All right. So here's the thing I do with every comedian that comes on my show. There's a series of questions. They're called Fastballs with Fitz.
Okay.
Just relax, have a little water, and answer these.
Let's do this, baby. Let's do
a little
it.
dance. All right. First of all, I'll ask you, have you ever not finished a set on stage?
No, I don't think I ever have, no matter how bad it goes. I have always, maybe it's because of the competitive nature of me. I always feel like I can win a crowd back. And I think, honestly, I've never ended so badly that like a set's been bad from start to finish. I've always gotten a little something, even if it's just like commenting on how bad it's going, you get something. Yeah. So, and I always feel like if people ask you to do a set, you do the set. If people are paying you to be there and do a set, you do the set. Like you don't stop. Right. You give them what they asked for. Right. And yeah.
Good.
So no, I don't think I ever have walked off. Have you?
One time I was opening for, you ever heard of They Might Be Giants?
Yeah.
I think they might be Canadian, as a matter of fact. And they were doing a show at Kent State University, and it was like spring fling, outdoor, daytime, kegs everywhere, and loud screaming. And so I was going on, and they kind of weren't expecting an opening act.
Right.
They were there to see They Might Be Giants, and there were hundreds of people. And so I'm going up, and they're just not listening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I got to make my money. I'm going to finish my set. And then somebody heckled, and I shit on them hard, and I got some laughs. And then I started my next joke, and I got hit in the chest with an apple.
Oh, my God.
And I just went, thanks a lot. Like, that's it. That's the line. I mean, you throw something, it's over.
That's fair. That's very fair. Yes.
And I think that's the only time I didn't finish a set.
Yeah.
And I hung out with They Might Be Giants all night. They were very cool.
They were probably like, sorry about the apple. Like, right?
Yeah, that happens to us all the time. We finish.
Oh, there is this kind of thing. The only time I ever didn't finish a set was when I was headlining a show in Toronto, like a really great weekly pub show, and someone passed out and hit their head on a radiator mid-set. They had to like turn the lights on and call the ambulance. And like half an hour later, we were all hanging out like, what the hell happened? She just passed out. And then the producers were like, all right, so when I get up there and do those last like 5-10 minutes? And I was like, no. Like there's still like flashing lights from the ambulance. And I was like, I think we should just call them. Like, you don't even have to pay me if you don't want to, if that's a sticking point. Like, I'm like, that's fine. I'm not going to go up again as the, like, you know what I mean? For 5 minutes. I was like, nah, I think I did what I needed to do.
Yeah, Ian Edwards did me a solid. You know Ian Edwards?
I don't know him personally. Oh, well, I mean, I know him, from shows and stuff.
So he did me a solid. We were down at the Long Beach Laugh Factory one night, and he's like...
so funny.
He's really funny. Yeah. And Bill Burr produced his special, too.
Yeah.
And he was finishing up his set, and we're really good friends. So he... all of a sudden, like, all the alarms went off. Like somebody... There was a fire or whatever, and the alarms went off. And he could have fucked me. He could have just gone, and now Greg Fitzsimmons. But he stood there for 15 minutes, and he kept talking to people, doing jokes.
Amazing.
And then as soon as it stopped, he brought me right up.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'll always love him for that.
What a good, like, that's someone who gets it, right? I mean, obviously he gets it. He's phenomenal, but yeah.
Have you ever borrowed money from somebody or lent money to somebody?
I've definitely lent money to people.
Yeah.
When I lend money to people, though, I always think of it as giving them money because I don't want to stress about getting it back.
Yeah.
Because I think that can be a hard thing between friends.
And did it come back?
I think lots of times it's come back.
Yeah. Oh, you're a regular broker. You loan all the time.
No, but if I have a friend who's like I had a friend who was kind of going to get evicted unless she paid back rent for 2 months. And at the time, I had the money. And I was like, look, I don't want you to not have a home, and I don't want you to come and ask if you can move in with me. So I was like, let me give you this money, and, we'll figure it out. And then I think some of it came back. But I was like, in the grand scheme of things, like, I'd rather not have the money than have her,
of course,
not have a place to live.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I hate borrowing money from people. So I don't know, maybe a couple bucks here and there if I like forgot my card or something.
Yeah,
but I'm the kind of person who's like, I owe you $3.
Yeah.
Let me remember to give that back to you because I hate that feeling.
Yeah.
So money's such a how you grow up with money dictates so much, I think.
Oh, I mean, it's one of the first things therapists will talk to you about.
Yeah.
Is like your relationship to money is about your ability to give, to receive.
Yeah.
Control, how much control issues you have. I have a bad relationship with money.
I think I did, and I'm getting a lot more healthy now.
Yeah.
But I'm because I grew up with, at times, very little money, I'm like a hoarder of money. Like, I don't want my savings account to get below a certain amount, even if it's for a good reason. But then I'm also like, but what's the point of that? Like, what's the point of having money if you don't enjoy, you know what I mean? Spend and enjoy or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's such a balance that it's still a contentious part for me. For my husband, he has a great, healthy relationship with money. He's good with money, always has been. I think came from a place where there was never a scarcity of money. So, there's just a different
He's also a lawyer. I mean, he's not a high paid lawyer because he's doing
definitely
the good
not.
thing.
I make more than he does. So
yeah. Isn't it amazing when you're doing the good thing and you're making less?
Oh, yeah.
And if you're a shithead lawyer, you make all the money?
Well, we laugh because he went to Harvard Law School.
He did.
And he almost never tells people that because it's so associated with exactly like the bros who are making like these like 6-figure bonuses. And he adamantly hates that culture.
Yeah.
And so one of my girlfriends got me a sweatshirt, you know, like the Harvard sweatshirts that every like proud Harvard person, like the maroon with whatever.
Yeah, and it's got to be worn out. The sleeves have to be frayed. Yeah.
It says Havarti in the same block letters, and I wear it as often as possible. She's like, wear it around him all the time. And I was like, perfect. But yeah, like he's doing the good stuff and getting paid like the worst amount of money.
Although a lot of times, like my wife's sister is the same thing. She works for the ACLU, and she used to work for the Bronx Defenders for like 15 years.
Yeah.
In like we used to visit her, the worst neighborhood in the Bronx.
Really?
And she was basically helping incarcerated black people to get the get the bail money.
Yeah.
And she got paid back. She went to Michigan Law, and because you were working in a job like that, they would pay back your loan for you.
For your student loan?
Yes.
I mean, that's the way it should be, I think. Otherwise, it's hard for people to want to work in these places where they would do really good stuff in the world, but like can't support, you know what I mean, their family or something, whatever it is. Right. So he sought out this work. He's very mission driven. Even when he was like, he used to be an actor, but he wrote like screenplays about like social justice and about movements and stuff. Like that's what he used to write about. And then he had this moment where he's like, I could play a person in this and get the word out that way, or I could just become a person who's in the movement and fight for it and like do it that way. So he left a successful career and like went to school and then works like a job where he will never, there's no end point. You know what I mean? There's no like, yay, we won.
Yeah.
So
right.
It's a stressful living.
What a guy you
I
landed.
know.
Former model, Harvard Law, and then he does missionary type work.
Yeah.
Jesus. Is he a good father?
No, he's the worst. No, I'm just kidding. No, he's great. He's a wonderful dad.
Deadbeat dad.
Yeah.
Right.
He's an amazing person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Happy for you.
Thank you. I'm happy.
All right,
too.
last question. Have you ever, what's the hackiest bit you've ever done?
I think it's kind of one of my favorite jokes, though.
I love that you didn't hesitate. Everybody else is like, because defenses are up against revealing what hacky bit you've done. But
I mean, I think
you launched right into it. I think
I've done some. I think part of it is like I have no defensiveness about that because I think part of me is like, I'm not a pure stand-up comedian. Like, I'm a performer, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I love stand-up. I love sketch. I love acting. I love all this stuff. So I don't feel like I have to be the best stand-up comedian because I'm like, I mean, if you write my jokes out, I'm like, they don't seem as funny as when I perform them.
Right.
So one of my first jokes I ever wrote was about like being born in Nigeria and all this stuff, and how when people hear that I was born in Nigeria, they always want to know more, and they're like, but where in Nigeria? And like, you know, they keep asking questions, and I had a whole bit about how I'm like, do you think that your Uncle Ralph lived 2 huts down from me? Like what? Like, you know, it devolves into this real like kind of sassy thing. And then I give in and I tell him I was born in Wusasa Hospital in Zaria, Nigeria, and people go, Wusasa. And like their eyes glaze over and they look off into the distance. And it's still one of my favorite jokes, I must say. But it's like this. Then I did this whole act out about how they think I was born into the Lion King. And then the whole act out of what the Lion King like hospital would be like. And the giraffe is your doctor and all this stuff. And honestly, it's like, it's so silly and dumb. And like, you know, but it's so fun and like people loved it. And so it was such a like ego boost when I first started. And I still, like, honestly, sometimes I wish I could tell that joke again. You know what I mean? Like,
hacky bits are way funner.
They are.
I mean, every time I have a joke where I have a tagline that's a fart joke, and I love it. Yeah. And it's kind of like, you know, I earned that. I did a bunch of other good stuff. Give me one hacky bit.
It's not like your whole act is hacky. So it's like you get to have varieties of spice of life, as they say. So
and it's always at the end. The hacky bit is always at the end.
Once you've earned their trust, you can throw this like softball. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen. This is great. This is a great interview.
This was so fun.
I'm glad you liked it.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun.
It's a pleasure. And check out Based on a True Story. It premieres on Peacock on June 8th. I do have Peacock. And that sounds like I have venereal disease. And then do you have a website people can visit?
Yeah, it's just my name, AishaAlfa.com.
Yeah.
Alpha with an F, not a PH.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also all my social media is just my name, Aisha Alfa, on Twitter and on Instagram. So I post about shows on there. I have a new show, a live show that's coming out June 7th, actually, at the Hotel Cafe here in LA.
Okay.
That's going to be a wedding-themed show. People talking about relationships, dating, divorce, whatever.
Nice.
And for the first one, I'm the bride and I will come in my wedding dress.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Which I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
So let's hope it can zip up. But even if it doesn't, I'm going to wear it anyway.
Yeah, all right, good.
So
good.
yeah.
All right, good. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.